Hello, and welcome to my studio. My name is Laura Petrovich-Cheney, and I live in Marblehead, Massachusetts. Before I take you further into my studio, let me explain to you what it is that I do. I make wood quilts. I survived Hurricane Sandy, and amidst the destruction and chaos, I started to make wood quilts from the scrap pieces of the homes ruined by the storm. I collected the wood and put them into orderly quilt patterns. I found this to be transformative work, and it gave me a great deal of comfort and healing in making these wood quilts. When Hurricane Sandy had hit, I was living in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and I was able to collect a lot of wood. And I put all the wood back from my community that I could. In a way, it was giving me comfort in trying to make order out of all the disorder. It also affected me so personally because my parents' home was destroyed, my childhood shore house. This is an image of my father. And during the process of repairing his home, he died of a heart attack, and several months later, my mother. So for me, losing home became a bigger disaster. The devastation was unbelievable. Piles and piles of wooden debris everywhere. And I wanted to tell the story of what had happened and take pieces of everybody's life and piece them back together. The memories of that house didn't have to go in a dumpster. I could take it and make quilts. And what's more comforting than a quilt? I am so lucky to have this studio above my garage. This work table is 4 feet by 8 feet. I acquired it when I was a fashion designer in Philadelphia. What you're seeing here are old-fashioned irons that I use in the middle of my work to put weight on it when it dries. And as you can see, I never throw any pieces out. Under the table are lots of milk crates with pieces. I'll just go in here when I need triangles and see what I have. Next to the table saw is where I keep some of my wood up here in my studio. Most of it is cut down to fit into these milk crates, so I can use it pretty readily. And over here in this corner is my desk, and this is where I do some drawings and some ideas for my work. Graph paper is key in my world because it gives me an idea of how big some of my squares can be and what it is that I'm doing. Coming around the desk, some saws hanging up, my bandsaw, sander, filtration systems, and there's the whole 360 view. So my best loved piece of equipment is this really terrific jet bandsaw. It's just one of my favorite pieces of equipment. So smooth and heavy. I do most of the cutting here. I started off as a quilter. I've been quilting since I was about 17, and the process is very similar in that I take large pieces of wood and make them into smaller geometric shapes. And then from there, I put them back together. It is a challenge because they are all found pieces. I never paint the wood. So what I'm going to show you right here in my studio is how I work. Just like a quilter has yardage of fabric, I have wood material, and this right here is a 1x4. But this 1x4 is a little too big to put on my bandsaw. So I'm going to show you how I make this smaller by bringing it over to my miter saw. Let's take a walk over. So this is my miter saw, and this pink contraption here keeps the dust at a minimum for me. So I've already measured this before, and I'm going to just cut this down into a smaller, more workable piece. So now I have a much more workable piece, and what I do now is I use material like a quilter's ruler and this other ruler. If you're a quilter, you know these things are so important in what you do. And they are for me as well, because these are wood quilts. So I'm going to measure my lines here. And now we're going to go over to the bandsaw. Okay, so here we are, and this is my favorite machine. This is the one I use mostly. So we're going to cut these pieces down. Now these edges are kind of rough, so now I'm going to sand them on my sander. So I have the blue pieces cut, and I'm gonna line them up to the piece that was already cut from before and check my work. And they should fit if my measurements are correct. And I'm noticing here that I do have to take a little bit off the blue, maybe just a resanding instead of a recutting, but that's it. So the old adage, measure twice, cut once, works every time. I love quilts. I like how American women are associated with quilts. Pioneer women that made quilts for necessity out of scraps. City women would buy them and make beautiful quilts. I love how they've been part of American history since the early settlers in the 1600s, in the 1920s and the 1800s in Philadelphia with the crazy quilts. It's such a rich history, and I'm so honored to be a part of it. I return again to the work of making wood quilts. The unpredictability of our lives forces me to look for possibilities again in rearranging squares and shapes into recognizable patterns of hope and possibilities. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share my space and life with you.